Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to you all. I'm Mohammed Afra and joining you this evening with very special information about a very special proposal by Bank of Maldives Limited. They're considering to cut their interest rates for the first time, and joining me this evening is the CEO and Managing Director of BML, Mr. Andrew Healy. Thank you for joining us. Can you tell us why the decision to consider cutting your interest rates?
Well, we feel the time is right to look at doing something on interest rates. We've always said we have a responsibility to give something back to the people. I believe we've lived up to that responsibility by investing, for example, 150 million rupiah right across the country over the past year in new branches, new ATMs, new self-service banking centres, in Doni banking, in rolling out Islamic banking right the way across the country, in bringing cash services to every inhabited island. So we've been investing very, very heavily. We've been lending. We've doubled our new lending in 2015 against 2014, up to 3.4 billion rupiah. But I suppose the key difference when it comes to interest rates now is that the bank's financial position is a lot stronger than it has been for a number of years. So if you look back to 2013 and the years preceding that, the bank had quite a challenging time. It was suffering losses, very high bad debts. Today, thankfully, we're making some profits. Our bad debts have come down quite a bit. So we're looking at ways that we can give something back to the people. We know that by tackling interest rates, by bringing down interest rates, we can benefit tens of thousands of Maldivians in terms of their daily lives. For example, reducing a home loan rate over a 20-year period could make a huge difference to the lives of Maldivians. Bank of Maldives has 260,000 customers today. Our customer base has been growing at a rate of 1,000 customers every month. We touch the lives of virtually every citizen in the country, every family in the country. So we have a duty to give something back to the people when we can do that, and we believe our financial position is strong enough now to look at interest rates. It's something that is a very emotive subject for people. If we can tackle interest rates in a positive way, it'll be very, very beneficial. It'll be very beneficial for people. So over the next few weeks, I plan to discuss this subject with our board, and hopefully we'll be able to come out with some positive news after that.
How do you see your current interest rates? Do you believe they're a bit high?
Our interest rates are competitive, and I think that's quite important and quite an achievement when you look at the extent of our presence across the country. As I've said, we're the only bank with a nationwide presence. We have branches right the way across the country. We have services in all islands. We've Doni banking. We have Islamic banking. We've been investing very, very significantly, 150 million rupiah over the past year. Yet our prices, our interest rates are competitive. In many cases, they're lower than those of our competitors who don't invest anything like we do. The size of our staff base, we've more staff in this country and in the atolls than all of the other banks combined. Banks have to generate money so that they can invest at that level. That's the first point. We also have to generate revenue to protect ourselves against bad debts. Banks will always incur some bad loans. But when our financial position is strong enough, and given Bank of Maldives' position within the country as the national bank, and given our responsibility to give something back to the people where we can, I think it's appropriate that when our financial position is strong enough, that we look at our interest rates, we look at our pricing to see what we can do. I quite often hear people talk about our prices. They talk about our interest rates when they see us making money. They assume that the prices must be too high. That's not the case. Our prices have been pretty similar for a number of years. In some cases, they've actually come down. I don't know if you recall, a little over a year ago, we removed a number of charges. For example, charges for ATMs, charges for inter-branch transfers, transferring money from one part of the country to the other. Those charges, for example, reduced our revenue base by 15 million rupiah a year. So, you know, we're not all about profits. We're about giving something back where we can do that. And if we can do that on interest rates, we certainly will do that.
The bank has seen very positive days during the past 2 years, and we saw last year an investment worth 150 million rupiah. What are your plans for this year?
Yes, well, we've been investing in new branches. We now have We now have 27 branches across 19 atolls. We'll bring in branch number 28 later this month in our 20th atoll when we open in Feladu in Vav Atoll. We'll also open in Mafushi, a new branch there this month in February. We've plans to roll out a further 7 branches over the course of the next year. So that's just the branch side. We'll also be investing in ATMs. We've 70 ATMs now across the country. We'll be increasing that to 85 over the next year. We'll be rolling out cash additions to our cash services in all inhabited islands. Today we've brought in a cash withdrawal service on those islands. We'll add a deposit service to that over the course of the next year. Islamic banking we commenced last year. We've been steadily building up our product portfolio there, and we'll really be stepping up that product set this year. So for example, later this month you'll see a home loan, a home finance offering on the Islamic side, so that our aim is that our customers will have a choice for all key products between conventional products and Islamic offerings. So for those who want a Sharia compliant alternative, that'll be there for them. Our bank will continue to invest in other areas like self-service banking centres. We've 10 self-service banking centres in bringing new products out. We'll also be investing in customer service and staff training and so on.
What about the economic situation in the country? How does this affect the bank and thus the customers?
Well, I think when we look at the economy, probably the key word is confidence. Those that are looking in from outside and those operating businesses within the country, they want to see this as a country that's receptive for businesses. So it's important that economic activity remains high. It's important that we've got a good legal framework. It's important that the right taxation regime exists, and I think the country's made a lot of good progress in those areas over the past few years, and it's important that continues. We've seen economic growth of close to 6% over the past few years. The Asian Development Bank are forecasting that economic GDP, economic growth will remain at those kind of levels over the next few years, and I think that would be positive. So, you know, if we can keep that confidence level going, both for local businesses and for international businesses looking in, I think the country has a bright future. I think where the banks come in is that we have a responsibility to support businesses of all sizes through our lending. I mentioned that we've increased our lending quite a bit, more than doubled over the past year. We have a responsibility to support small businesses that are setting up, to support businesses that are expanding, and you know, we operate something like 30 government schemes that are there to support largely SMEs and entrepreneurs, both in terms of conventional finance and Islamic finance. So the bank BML has a responsibility to support the economy, to support businesses that are operating within the economy, and other banks have responsibilities there too.
Mr. Healy, how do you see the banking sector in the country? Do you believe that there's enough competition?
I believe there's room for more competition. I think the country and the people of this country would benefit from new banking competitors coming into the market, particularly banks that are prepared to invest right the way across the country, not just in Mali, not just in certain segments like for bigger businesses. Really, when you look at the situation today, Bank of Maldives is the only bank with a nationwide presence, the only bank that is investing right the way across the country, across every segment. I think in order to attract new banks into the country, and there's at least one new one on the way. The same principles apply as we talked about with the economy there. Confidence is a big issue. Banks have to see this as a good place to do business. They have to see a good level of economic activity. They have to see that they'll get reasonable returns on their investment here. They have to see a robust financial system here. The integrity of the financial services industry is very important, and there's been some good reforms in the banking sector over the past few years. I mean, we've seen recently that MMA has reduced their minimum reserve requirement, basically the amount of money that banks need to hold with the monetary authority. We've seen a new deposit insurance scheme that's there to protect depositors. We have a receptive climate here, I believe, for new banks to come in, and the Commercial Bank of Ceylon are coming in over the next few months as one example of a bank that's prepared to come in and invest here. They are partnering with a very strong local business in Treetop, and I think they will be a formidable competitor, and they will bring some benefits to the country. I think people will welcome that. We want people to continue to bank with us in Bank of Maldives. We've 260,000 customers. We touch the lives of, as I've said, of almost every individual, every family across the country, and we want to continue to do that. But we would welcome additional competition. When banks come in, they stimulate the economy, they create jobs. We have more than 850 people employed across the country. 847 of those are Maldivians. Banks support business, and we have a responsibility to support businesses to get off the ground and to expand. We also pay our taxes. Banks pay taxation at a rate of 25%, which is more than other industries. Bank of Maldives also pays dividends. We're owned by the people, basically. The government has a controlling stake in the bank, so we pay almost 40% of our profits back to the state, back to the people, and that's good for the economy. So we'd like to see more banks coming in. More competition will be good for jobs, good for economic activity.
Can you also tell us about the recent improvements in your customer services?
Well, we have seen some improvements in our customer service, but we also have some distance to go, because customer service has historically been a problem for Bank of Maldives over the years. There were lots of complaints, lots of queues and so on. There are probably three main areas, I would say, that we've been targeting that have been annoying customers for years. The first one is branch queues. A visit to a BML branch was like a day out. Up to the last year or two, you could spend 5 or 6 hours waiting to withdraw some cash or to be given a particular account service. You could bring your picnic with you almost. Today, you'll be served a lot more quickly, thankfully. Part of the reason for that is that we've done something on the technology side to give people alternatives to using branches. So 2 million transactions have been handled through our self-service banking centres, for example, over the past year, and that's helped as we've rolled out 10 self-service banking centres. That's helped to take transactions away from our branches. But branch queues is the first area that probably annoyed customers a lot. The second area was our call centre. It used to take 20 minutes to be answered in our call centre on average, sometimes over an hour. That 20 minutes has reduced to 20 seconds today. So hopefully, if after this program you call up our call centre, you'll be answered in 20 seconds or less. That's the average today. So that's a good improvement. The third area was loan processing. When you applied for a loan in our bank, your application seemed to go into a black hole, into the Bermuda Triangle, and you didn't know where things were at. You didn't know when you'd get an answer. It could take 2 months, it could take 12 months. Nobody was keeping you informed and so on. Today we don't have backlogs in our loans. A lot of our loans get processed within a matter of a few days. Sometimes if it's a bit more complicated, where deeds need to be registered or an inspection is required, it'll take a bit longer than that. We're trying to keep our customers informed as to where their loans stand. So, you know, with shorter queues now, it takes less time to get served on the phone, and our loan processing is a lot quicker. You add to that things like mobile banking and internet banking that are a bit better. But you know, I still hear some complaints. I still see some areas where we can improve. For example, we're looking at the speed of our account opening at the moment. We're looking at how quickly we serve US dollars. There's always room for improvement. So I think it's better, but there's still a little bit to go.
Mr. Healy, thank you very much for joining us, and we here wish you yet another profitable year for Bank of Maldives.
Thank you.
That concludes the program for now. Thanks for watching. Good night.